The scream cut through the quiet street like a tear in silk. A moment later, the sound of breaking glass echoed from the elegant townhouse at the end of Willow Crescent. Neighbors peeked through curtains, their lights flickering on one by one, as the night filled with sirens. Inside, the living room was chaos. Glass scattered across the floor, furniture overturned. A picture frame cracked beneath the weight of a toppled lamp. In the middle of it all lay Emily Whitmore, 32. Her blonde hair darkened with blood. The wedding photo beside her face had splintered clean down the middle, dividing husband from wife. Daniel Whitmore crouched beside her, his white shirt smeared crimson. His hands trembled as he pressed them to her shoulder. "Emily, please," he whispered, the phone on speaker beside him. The operator's voice was calm but distant, asking him to describe what happened. His words were clipped, deliberate. "There was a break-in. I just got home. She's hurt. Please send someone." When the police arrived, the front door hung half open. The lock shattered from the inside rather than forced. Officers stormed through the house, weapons raised, finding no intruder, no sign of struggle beyond the living room. Daniel stood frozen, staring at his wife as though he couldn't recognize her. His voice never broke. Detective Sergeant Harper Keene was first to kneel beside the body. Her torch swept the area, stopping on the glass fragments glinting like diamonds beneath the emergency lights. "Single impact to the head," she murmured. "No defensive wounds. Whoever did this got close." She glanced up at Daniel. He was too composed. No shaking, no tears, just a blank stare fixed on the wall. When she asked where he'd been that evening, he said he had been working late, but his watch still showed the faint reflection of water, the kind left by washing something clean. The medics declared Emily dead at the scene. Daniel's eyes flickered only once at the sound of the words. Then he whispered, "She didn't deserve this." Harper studied him carefully, her instincts prickling. Something about his calmness felt wrong. The room told a story of rage, but the man before her told none. Outside, the flashing red and blue lights painted his face in alternating shades of guilt and grief as he was led into the waiting patrol car. Behind him, the shattered wedding frames caught the light like broken promises. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the interrogation room like a slow, mechanical heartbeat. Daniel Whitmore sat across the metal table. His shirt changed, but the faint trace of blood still rimmed his nails. The air smelled of bleach and burnt coffee. Detective Harper Keene stood in the corner, arms folded, watching him. Since his arrival, Daniel hadn't asked once if Emily was alive. He only muttered the same phrase again and again. "They took everything." "What did they take, Mr. Whitmore?" Detective Rowan Burke asked from across the table, his voice steady but sharp. Daniel's eyes lifted, pale and hollow. "My wife's jewelry, my laptop. A watch, I think." He hesitated. "Maybe some cash." Rowan scribbled the list, then asked, "You're not sure?" Daniel blinked slowly. "It's hard to remember. I just found her like that." Harper stepped closer, her gaze fixed on his hands. "The door was broken from the inside. Not the outside," she said quietly. "Any idea how that happened?" He didn't look up. Maybe she tried to fight back, but his tone was wrong, detached, practiced. Rowan leaned forward. "Did you love her, Daniel?" The man's jaw tightened. His fingers brushed his wedding ring, polished to a mirror sheen, untouched by the night's chaos. "Of course I did," he said too quickly. Harper felt the chill of certainty crawl up her spine. She had seen grief in its rawest forms. The sobbing, the denial, the shaking hands that couldn't stop reaching for what was gone. But Daniel Whitmore didn't tremble. He didn't weep. He simply existed, as if mourning was beneath him. Outside the glass, officers whispered about the missing watch, the inconsistent timeline, the perfectly folded suit jacket in Daniel's car. Everything about him was ordered, rehearsed. Harper glanced at the clock. The second hand ticked slow and merciless. She turned back to the man who claimed to have lost everything and saw only control staring back. The house felt colder in daylight. Every creak of the floorboards echoed through the silence, as if the walls themselves were reluctant to speak. Detective Harper Keene walked through the Whitmore living room again, studying the staged disarray. The broken glass looked deliberate now, too symmetrical to be real chaos. Forensic officers combed through drawers, cabinets, and carpets. Beneath the rug near the fireplace, Harper noticed one plank that didn't quite sit flush with the others. She knelt, pried it open with a gloved hand, and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal wrapped in faded blue ribbon. Emily Whitmore. She laid it open on the evidence table. The first few pages were mundane. Grocery lists, plans for a weekend trip to Bath, reminders to buy lilies for their anniversary. Then the tone shifted. He doesn't sleep beside me anymore. He says he's working late, but I can smell her perfume on his shirts. I hear footsteps upstairs when I'm alone. Once I found my phone unlocked, the camera app open. He said I must have done it myself. He's watching me even when he's not home. The words sank like lead. Harper's hand tightened on the page as she read each line. Emily's writing became more frantic, letters jagged, sentences scratched over until the paper nearly tore. Detective Rowan Burke entered, holding a folder. "We've checked the back door. No signs of forced entry. It was kicked from inside." Harper didn't answer. She turned another page. A pressed white rose fell out, brittle, brown-edged. Beneath it, one final entry was written in shaking ink. "If something happens to me, it won't be a stranger." Rowan looked over her shoulder, his jaw tightening. "He said they took everything. But not this." Harper closed the diary gently. "He didn't know we'd find it. Or maybe he wanted us to." Outside, the autumn wind scraped against the broken window pane, carrying the faint scent of lilies from the garden. Harper glanced once more at the darkened house, her reflection faint in the shattered glass. The evidence room buzzed with quiet activity, the low hum of machines and faint smell of coffee, mingling with the sharp tang of antiseptic. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, technicians cataloged every item from the Whitmore house, one object at a time, methodical and detached. Among the pile of labeled evidence bags, a junior tech named Eleanor Briggs found a small silver USB drive tucked in a box of old letters. Its label read, "Wedding, Private." The handwriting was neat but slightly smudged, as if once handled with care and later hidden in haste. Eleanor plugged it into the station laptop, and the monitor came alive. Rows of photographs flickered across the screen. A countryside church, smiling guests, champagne glasses clinking under strings of fairy lights. Emily and Daniel looked radiant, their happiness caught in soft golden tones. Harper entered the room mid-scroll, drawn by the faint sound of music echoing from a video clip. "What's that?" she asked. "Old wedding photos," Eleanor said. "Thought it might help with background context." Harper leaned closer, her eyes scanning each image. Then the atmosphere shifted. In one photo, Daniel stood beside a bridesmaid, tall, auburn-haired, striking, his hand resting on her waist, fingers curved in a way that spoke of familiarity, not friendship. The woman's smile was hesitant, her body angled slightly away. Eleanor frowned. "That's not just posing, is it?" Harper's pulse quickened. She zoomed in. The bridesmaid's wrist bore a faint scar, thin but distinctive, the same pattern found in a partial fingerprint lifted from the back door of the Whitmore residence. She checked the file metadata. Date 24 May, 2 days before the wedding. The woman's name appeared in a separate folder, Lena Corbin. Harper recognized it instantly from the neighborhood witness list. Lena had been seen leaving the Whitmore home only 48 hours before Emily's death. Rowan entered behind them, glancing at the screen. "So that's her." "The missing guest," Harper's voice dropped. "Not missing. Hiding." The final image on the drive was darker than the rest. Emily captured mid-laugh, Daniel's gaze fixed, not on her, but on Lena standing behind. A moment of truth disguised as joy. Harper straightened, her stomach tightening. Get her address tonight. Rain lashed against the windows of the Southwark precinct, its rhythm steady as a heartbeat. Under the sterile glow of a single hanging light, Lena Corbin sat hunched in the interrogation chair. Her mascara had bled into the creases beneath her eyes, her lipstick smeared by trembling fingers. She looked like someone whose lies had finally started to taste like ash. Detective Harper Keene watched her from across the table, silent, waiting. The pause stretched until Lena broke it with a whisper. "I shouldn't have answered his call. Daniel Whitmore?" Harper asked, voice low. Lena nodded, eyes glassy. "He said Emily found out. Said she was going to ruin him, destroy everything he built. He told me he'd fix it." Rowan Burke leaned against the wall, arms folded. "Fix it how?" Lena's breath hitched. "He said he'd talk to her. Make her understand. I never thought he'd hurt her. I swear I didn't. Harper slid a photograph across the table. Daniel and Lena at the wedding, his hand on her waist. You were already seeing him then, weren't you? Lena flinched. It started months before. He told me their marriage was over, that she was unstable. I believed him. A flash of memory tore through her. A reflection in a dressing room mirror. Emily's laughter echoing from the hallway. Daniel's lips pressed against hers behind the half-closed door. A forbidden kiss buried under the sound of champagne corks and wedding vows. Harper's tone sharpened. Did you go back to the house that night? No, Lena said quickly. He told me to stay away. But he called later, after midnight. He sounded strange, said it was done. She swallowed hard. I asked what he meant, but he just hung up. The room fell silent except for the rain hammering against the glass. Harper studied the woman in front of her. Guilt clinging to every breath, but not the kind born of violence. This was the guilt of someone who had loved the wrong man. Harper pushed back her chair. This wasn't a break-in, Lena. It was a reckoning. The CCTV footage flickered across the monitor in the dimly lit briefing room. The timestamp read 22:17, barely 2 hours before Emily Whitmore's death. The grainy frame, Daniel appeared at a petrol station counter. A hood pulled low over his face. He placed a small pile of items on the counter. Rubber gloves, industrial cleaner, a roll of bin liners. The cashier handed him the receipt, unaware that he was serving a man preparing for murder. Detective Harper Keene stood motionless as the video looped again, the fluorescent hum filling the silence. He said he was at work, she murmured. Yet he had time to buy supplies fit for a cover-up. Detective Rowan Burke exhaled sharply. He's been lying since the first word he spoke. Moments later, Daniel Whitmore sat back in the same interrogation room as before, posture perfect, eyes fixed on the tabletop. Harper placed a still image from the footage in front of him. Tell me that isn't you, she said. Daniel studied the photograph for a long time, then raised his gaze. You don't understand her, he said softly. She made me do this. Harper's jaw tightened. Made you? She threatened to expose everything. Said she'd ruin my name, destroy what I built. I just wanted peace. Peace doesn't come with bleach and gloves, Daniel. Rowan cut in, stepping forward. Daniel's expression never changed. His voice carried no remorse, only exhaustion. She was cruel in ways you wouldn't see. She smiled for everyone else, but at home she tore me apart. Harper leaned in, her tone cold. So you decided to end it. He looked at her with an eerie calm. I decided to survive. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The air in the room seemed to tighten, as if the walls were closing around him. Harper realized then that Daniel wasn't confessing out of guilt. He was justifying himself, rehearsed and composed. Like a man explaining a business decision rather than a murder. She stepped back, her stomach sinking. This wasn't grief. It was control, perfected. The forensics lab was silent except for the faint hum of computers processing data. Rows of monitors flickered with photographs, metadata, and digital timestamps. Detective Harper Keene stood beside the lead analyst Miles Renard, his glasses reflecting the cold glow of the screen. We pulled the deleted files from Emily Whitmore's phone, Miles said. One survived long enough to auto-sync to the cloud before it was wiped. On the monitor appeared a photograph. Emily standing in front of a mirror, her wedding dress hanging behind her like a ghost. She wasn't smiling the way brides should. Her lips were pressed into a thin line, eyes glistening as if she were forcing calm. Around her neck hung a delicate silver necklace with a small sapphire pendant. Miles pointed to the corner of the screen. Timestamp 23:57. That's 3 minutes before Daniel called emergency services. And that necklace matches the one he claimed was stolen during the break-in. Harper felt her pulse thrum in her ears. She never deleted it by accident, she said quietly. She wanted someone to find it. The image zoomed in. Behind Emily's reflection in the mirror stood the faint blur of a figure. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark shirt. The outline was unmistakable. Daniel Whitmore had been there. Rowan Burke entered, holding the printed timeline. The argument started before midnight. A neighbor reported raised voices. She confronted him about Lena Corbin. Harper studied the photograph again. He killed her wearing the same shirt from their wedding toast. He staged the robbery to erase the shame of exposure. The realization settled like a weight on the room. Every piece of evidence, the gloves, the diary, the missing necklace, had been threads in the same design. Daniel hadn't lost control. He had planned redemption in blood, Harper whispered. She took this photo because she knew he'd lie. It was her last truth. Rowan's voice cut through the silence. Then let's make sure he never forgets it. The interrogation room was drowned in a sterile, humming silence. Daniel Whitmore sat hunched over the steel table, wrists cuffed, the harsh light above cutting across his face. His eyes were red, not from tears but exhaustion, the kind that came when lies began to rot from the inside. Detective Harper Keene entered with Rowan Burke, a thin folder tucked under her arm. She placed a single photograph on the table, Emily's selfie. The necklace gleamed like truth itself. You said it was stolen, Harper said evenly. She was wearing it the night she died. We know she found out about Lena. Daniel's jaw tightened. A tremor flickered through his hand. You don't know what she was like. Rowan leaned forward. We know she was terrified. We read her diary. Daniel's laugh broke through the room, fractured, hollow. Terrified? She was leaving me. Said she'd take the house, the money, everything. Said she'd tell everyone what I'd done. His voice cracked, tears spilling freely now. I only wanted her to listen. I never meant for it to go that far. Harper's tone hardened. But it did. He looked up, eyes wide and vacant. She said our marriage was a performance. She didn't understand. I built everything for her. And when she threatened to destroy it, I lost her. One swing and she was on the floor. I thought she'd wake up. The silence after his words felt suffocating. The hum of the fluorescent light grew louder. Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. The wedding photos were supposed to remind me of love, not ruin me. Rowan nodded to the technician outside. The camera light blinked red as the confession was sealed. Later, in the evidence room, Harper stared at the board covered in photos and red string. At its center, she pinned one final image. Emily smiling, Daniel's hand resting on her shoulder. A portrait of devotion and deceit. As the lights dimmed, that photograph remained illuminated. The last proof of a love that ended in blood.